Hello and Happy New Year, although you could be watching this at many different times, but I am filming this on January 1st and this is a pretty significant date. That's what this video is about. But first, let me start by saying my name is Amy. Welcome if this is your first time. Thank you for being here. Whether this is your first time or you've been here before, I'm just so grateful to have you here with me and to have this space. I first need to acknowledge that I am wearing one of the coziest lounge suits. I never used to wear things like this. I didn't like it. They had the same color on top and bottom for some weird reason. And I got into this in the last year and these ones are my favorite. And so to help myself celebrate this very significant milestone, I got to wear my favorite lounge set today after going for a run and putting my Christmas decorations away. So today I'm celebrating 9 years of sobriety, 9 years without alcohol. I also quit smoking cigarettes at the time. I have been extremely careful about sharing this and who I share it with because there's a lot of judgment around it. There's a lot of ignorance. And as much as people celebrate you when you don't do it, and it's easy to see people who maybe need to stop drinking or doing drugs, once someone actually stops, there's just a lot of misunderstanding, I'd say. And that's what ignorance is. It's it's behavior that's just lack of understanding and knowledge, at least to me. But I share this because what matters to me more than the people who might not understand me or might judge is the person who needs to hear this. And one of the most important lessons I have learned in the last 9 years is that it is not my business what anybody else thinks of me. The first time I heard that, I was like, that is wrong, but that is a topic for another day. It's taken me some time to really understand that, and now it is one of the most important aspects of any piece of wisdom I've learned and helped me find so much peace in my life. Now, one of the things about sharing this is that I need to go deep with it because that's what I do with things, and I want to talk about it from the aspect of really like this spiritual part of it for me. And it's not like so woo-woo, but just meaning like what was going on with my soul, what happened, what led me to drinking, things like that. So, gosh, you know, there's this saying that alcohol or drugs or whatever isn't the actual problem. Those are the solutions for the problems somebody has, for their traumas, for their pain. And for me, I didn't get a DUI. I didn't lose a job. I didn't have anything like that happen to me. But I remember sitting with a girlfriend of mine a month or two before, hey, you stop it. A month or two before I got sober, and I told her, I was like, I feel nothing. I feel nothing. I felt such a void. I felt this loneliness and this emptiness that no matter what I did, it was just there. If the things around me got too quiet, it was just so obviously there. And I really believe that humans, all humans, if they're not consciously working on themselves, self-aware, filling themselves with really good things, then we're all using something outside of ourselves to fill our voids. And mine was alcohol. There is a history of it in my family. It has never really been talked about, so I had no idea that there could be any kind of problem with me, or I had no idea what a symptom would look like, anything like that, because it was such a secretive thing. So I mean, honestly, it was like one of the biggest shocks of my life. And part of the reason I just decided to stop drinking was I kind of felt like I had tried everything else. I've always been a seeker. I was reading a lot of books on self-improvement, things like that. And it was just like nothing I did was working. And a few different things happened and I decided I was going to give it up at New Year's, and my plan was to not drink for a year and kind of see what happened. But I also didn't actually think I would stop drinking that long. But I really didn't think it was going to make an impact. I really didn't. And so, like, honestly, I didn't realize what my issues were really until I stopped drinking. It's like where hindsight's 2020. So I stopped drinking and I got involved in a community of other people who didn't drink, which was so helpful for me because it gave me a mirror back to myself. It helped me hear things that seemed like they were only my story or my pains or my struggles, and I found out that they weren't just mine and that there was actually a solution for them. And in my first year, I realized that I had had such a lack of self-worth, self-respect. I was not making decisions from a place that was aligned to myself at all because I wasn't. And a way that I've described it is like, especially in that first year, as I started looking at myself, at my shame, at my trauma, at my pain, all of it, at the things I was so embarrassed of that I did, I felt like I was thawing. Like it's almost like I had been frozen. And the reason for this, I really believe, is that, and here's like where the spiritual part of it comes in for me, is that, you know, kids are so connected and so tuned in. And I've talked about this before, but this is why. And in time, they become conditioned and they're influenced by the people in their lives, the world around them, by society. And people are not making decisions that are based on them, on what's in their soul. All of us begin to make, most of the time, unless you really, in a good, really evolved, healthy environment, most of the time we're making decisions that are highly influenced by what the people around us think we should do. And not just that, but there's a lot of pain. There's a lot of people driven from their egos, a major lack of self-awareness. And we go through that, we experience that, we live that, we have traumas, we have pains that make us really question ourselves. And every time something like that happens, for me, it felt like a part of my soul was getting covered, like smothered. I got sober at 30, and I had 30 years where I was living a life that I felt got me further and further away from myself. And I barely had time to even connect to that part of me in a conscious way. And every time I disrespected myself, my body, my decisions, my career, what I wanted to do, it put another kind of layer of that smothering over my soul. And I kept getting further and further away from that. And then I woke up one day and said, I feel nothing. And the reason I felt that is because I had spent so much time so unaware, becoming more and more disconnected, that was true. I couldn't feel my soul anymore. I couldn't feel me, who I was. I didn't get the chance to connect. And I was so unaware of that it was happening and what I could do. And so in that first year of me not drinking, I remember saying, I am just going to do this for 1 year. And if this doesn't get better, then I'm going to do whatever I want. But if I'm going to do it, I'm going to listen to people who have done it too. And I'm going to take advice that seems really insightful, and I'm going to follow it. Because like, otherwise, what's the point? And I did that. And that is why it felt like I was thawing. It's like every time I looked at a behavior that embarrassed me or that I wasn't proud of, or a decision that didn't feel aligned to me at all, that made me feel like I was living somebody else's life that they wanted for me, when I looked at that and understood my part in that and took responsibility for it and faced my shame and faced the really embarrassing things that I did, I started connecting to myself. Every time I did that, one of those layers was stripped away. It's like peeling an onion back, and you get to the center, you get to that core. Every layer that got peeled back helped me to actually thaw in the sense where I wasn't frozen anymore and so disconnected from myself. That first year totally changed my life. It was so hard. It was so hard, but it was the most impactful thing I have ever done. And I remember getting to that 1 year mark and saying, like, I don't recognize my life now. And not much had really changed on the outside, but how I felt inside was totally different. And I remember thinking, this is what I was in search of this whole time. Connection. It all comes down to connection. The lack I was feeling, the loneliness, the emptiness, the void was a lack of connection, because I was using things outside of myself to feel better, to fill those voids, but that was never actually going to work. And the reason I'm grateful that I had a problem with alcohol is because I actually did something about it. I had to sink or swim, and a lot of people never do anything because it never gets bad enough. They can just kind of go through life filled with complacency and think, all right, this is fine, and they never really go deeper. They never really do that kind of internal introspective work. And for me, it has been the catalyst to everything I've been in search of. It is the catalyst to my real spiritual growth, because I've been able to actually connect to that. And there's so much that's gone on in these last 9 years. Every single year I look back and think, wow, that was such a hard year, but it was such an amazing year, because there's so many new opportunities for me to learn and grow. And every year, every day, I show up with the intention to learn, to take responsibility, to really show up with integrity in a way where I don't have to turn around and apologize to somebody later, where my conscience is clear and honest, and anything it wasn't feeling that way around from the past, I have apologized for. That has been so important. And today, since I've cleaned all of that up, everything from my past, I get to actually just live from a place that feels so pure and like a clean slate. And the longer I'm sober, and the more I continue to show up to this work, the more I just feel so transformed, and so much of what I was seeking to feel, I've been able to feel, but even beyond that, beyond what I even knew was possible. If it weren't for my sobriety, I wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be in this space. There is so much in my life that I would not have. And I am so grateful that there was something in me that kept me going through this. And it is in you. It is in every person. It does not feel like it is at the beginning, but I promise you it is. And all you need to do is take the next step. That's it. You don't need to know anything more than that. Maybe that next step is simply not drinking, or not overeating, or not gambling, or not sleeping with someone, or not whatever the thing is, not shopping, not resorting to anger, things like that. It's all of these things can be our drug of choice. We're humans. And so naturally, the more we're disconnected from who we are internally, the less of a connection we can actually have to that spiritual part of us. It lives within us. And if I don't have that, then I don't have a connection. Because the things outside of me are not permanent, they're not mine, they're not my truth. And I'm really just so grateful that the unfolding of my story has been what it is. Because I really feel like I've had more meaning and substance and depth in the last 9 years than ever before. And this is what it's about. I didn't want to just be complacent. I didn't want to just coast through life, just get by. I didn't want that. I didn't want to just live a life that was dictated by other people and what they said I should do. And I don't now. But, you know, the work never ends. It's not like I'm just good now. I show up daily to going inward, to being aware of myself, to my behavior, how I'm showing up. And this year in particular, I'm so excited about because I feel more connected to myself than ever before. I feel more aware of what I need to do for myself. As much as I've shifted so many things and let go of so many things that aren't serving me, there are a couple things that are still here that are pretty big. And one of my big intentions this year is to finally shift and transform that too. So I will share about that as that continues to unfold. But none of this would be possible if I had continued drinking and continued just kind of keeping myself pretty numb. I am so grateful that I am not anymore. I just want to encourage you, even if it doesn't feel like it's that big of a deal and you don't really have to have much of a problem, if you're just feeling like you want to make a change for yourself, just do it. Do it. Just see. You're never going to know if you don't just try. And there is so much on the other side of what your intuition is telling you to do. So much. I also want to just preface that a lot of people did not support me at first. A lot of people almost like they felt threatened or something, even though it had nothing to do with them. But when I stopped drinking, there were quite a few people who didn't like me not drinking and just didn't support these decisions. That was also pretty challenging. So that's also common. And just know that you just have to keep tuning into what your truth is. One of the hardest parts about this journey is that no one else can do this for you. This is something you need to do for yourself. And you might not want to at first, but if you just start and you start to feel the shifts and the difference, you start to realize that it's worth it. And I promise you, it is worth it. Thank you for being here with me. It really means so much. There's so much more to this than me just popping on and making a video, but feeling like I can be honest like this, vulnerable, so open, have a YouTube channel to begin with, to talk about any of this, my spirituality, my spiritual gifts that I had no idea were a part of me that I am so excited about because they continue to unfold, because that's another thing I continue to show up to every single day. And I'm really so grateful because I realize I could have so easily missed out on all of this. And I am so glad I don't have to. Thank you for being here. And if you have any comments, questions, support you would like from me, please leave me a comment below or send me a message and know that I am here for you. I will talk to you next time. Bye.